Hey, this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse, Winchester.
Welcome, everybody, to the It Modcast podcast, Fistful Friday.
Wow, wow, wow.
Wow, wow, wow.
Why aren't you pow-pow-powing?
Because you were having such a good time doing it.
I know.
Like, one person doing it, that's sad. Two people doing it, and one person not doing it just seems...
Judgy?
Yeah, but on your end.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Pow, pow, power
Pow,
wheels.
pow, pow. There
I
we
think
go.
he's still recovering
I'm
from
tired.
the psychorama.
Yeah, he is.
sleepover.
Yeah.
So joining me, as you can hear, is wife dork and the mouth dork. Disco is still sleeping. He's been asleep all week.
All week.
All week.
Now Brad and I have been married over 10 years because that means yesterday was our 10-year wedding
Yeah,
anniversary.
high five.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
the
you.
Duke Kaboom
Yeah.
and
Combat Carl.
Combat Carl high five.
That's why you have to find love in your life so someone can always complete your high five.
There you go. There you go.
Spiritually and sexually.
Oh, there we go.
Let me choke on my...
On this La Croix. So Darren's not here, so I will tell you guys what his fistful of the year is.
Did you really get it from him, or are you being a silly Billy?
I'm being silly, but I'm still going to give.
Oh, I can't wait.
we all know what his number one is.
Well, we definitely know what his number one is. But yeah, so our fistful is our top films of the year thus far.
Fancy.
2019. I don't know about you guys, man, but this year has kind of been mediocre.
Mediocre? I would say that this year blows.
Okay, I was being kind.
I've watched so many films this year. I've watched more films this year at this point than I did last year. I'm over 300 films of the year so far.
Okay.
Not all from 2019. I've been
Yeah.
watching a lot of older movies
Yeah.
because the new films have been sucking so bad. I'm looking at you, X-Men Dark Phoenix and Men in Black International.
I know.
Why you have to hurt me.
Why it's so bad?
But there have been some bright spots.
There has been some bright spots, and we always know this every year that normally the second half of the year is pretty heavy with a lot more of the more prestige films and some of the films that are looked at a little bit, better at. So I'm hoping that the second half of the year will be a little bit better than what we got on this first half, but it
can't be much worse, can
It's
it?
been a little disappointing. So with that being said, our fistful of 2019 thus far, Lisa, let's start with you. Your number 5.
My number 5 is a movie that I saw at Sundance, and it has been purchased for distribution.
Okay.
But since Sundance, I haven't heard anything about it actually coming out. It's Little Monsters.
Oh, okay.
I enjoyed this film so much.
I'm excited for this one.
It is a movie about a kindergarten teacher who is the kind of teacher that you just take with you the rest of your life. She lights up a room. She's so inspired.
Okay.
She really cares about her students. And then there is this uncle of one of the kids who is kind of a washed-up musician. He's just gotten out of a long-term relationship. And he sees this ray of sunshine that is this kindergarten teacher, and he goes like, I think I care about the well-being of young people. I'm going to volunteer to be a chaperone at the school trip to the zoo. And so him and his nephew and the kindergarten class and this teacher go to the zoo, and then chaos happens. It's a zombie movie, folks, and it is the best. The teacher is played by Lupita Nyong'o, who's absolutely wonderful, and
her.
she does all of her own vocals, and she plays the ukulele.
Yes.
Having a great year.
And
Awesome
yeah,
year.
she is.
Awesome year.
And so this is not spoilers. I guess she's gonna come up later in my list. That's the truth.
Okay.
But like I was a Catholic school music teacher for 5 years, and I really identified with like this idea of you are putting, like when you're working with kids, you are putting on a show, you're making sure everybody's entertained, you're, handing out Band-Aids and bucking up people's spirits. But when it comes down to it, like when you're in that teacher mode and you are the head of the classroom, you will do anything for those kids.
Yeah.
And you really see that personified in her character as the zombie outbreak is in full throttle. She is making sure that these children are taken care of, not just physically, but emotionally. She does everything she can to protect them from the horror that is happening. And that really inspires the kind of like selfish musician character. And they really have really fun, like chemistry together. There's also Josh Gad is also in this film as Teddy McGiggle, who is kind of like a cross between like a Captain Kangaroo and the Wiggles, but like super alcoholic and gross and scary. This movie is not VF. So the fact that I'm talking about
I was going to ask you about that.
It's super vomity. The Josh Gad character, just every time, if you're like me, if you have emetophobia, every time he's on the screen, just close your eyes, plug your ears, go to your happy place, because it gets really gross. But I think the story is wonderful. The script is legit funny and heartwarming and all of those wonderful things. And on top of that, the practical makeup for these zombies is creative and funny. They really, they're pretty much traditional, like, shuffling type zombies. But in the zoo environment, they really do something really fun with it. So, it's been purchased by Neon and Hulu. So I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Like they're going to release it on
release.
Yeah.
If it does, it's going to have a small one, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So here's like the distribution article is the same distribution article I was looking at back in January.
Okay.
So, but I think this movie's great.
Yeah.
I hope everybody gets to see it. I hope in particular, Shara, our listeners and our lover, Shara, gets to see this film. I was thinking about her the whole time. She's really going to love it. So, yes. Little Monsters.
Nice.
Lupita Nyong'o. She's my everything.
She really is.
So good.
I love her.
She can sing. She's got a little sweet voice.
Ooh, okay. I'm looking forward to that one.
She strums a uke. She can handle an instrument.
So, Brad, what do you have at your number 5 of 2019? The pressure, man. Big choices.
I mean, big choices. So, like, yeah, go big or go home.
Yeah.
Number 5, of course, I am picking Neil Marshall's Hellboy.
Yeah, I enjoyed this movie.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you didn't see it? You didn't go see it? All right.
I didn't see it.
I know Darren saw it, and he questions me. So I'm glad that he's not on it, and I'm sure that a lot of listeners question me. But here's the thing: like, I am a massive Hellboy fan.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And I saw the trailer, and I go, boy, that sure doesn't feel like the Hellboy I love, and it doesn't feel like the Hellboy that Guillermo del Toro was playing with. And because, GDT's Hellboy is not Mike Mignola's Hellboy. It's very different. They're very different creations.
Okay.
And this is yet again another tangent from the comic books, and it's doing its own thing. And it's very silly. It's very profane and gross, but it is filled with monsters, and it's monsters punching monsters. And if you grew up loving Conan the Barbarian, we talked about that on Weekend Dork, right? Love Conan the Barbarian. But what about those Conan the Barbarian knockoff movies? What about Deathstalker? What about Sorceress? What about Barbarian Queen? Do you like those movies? If you do, you're going to love the hell out of Hellboy. It's just blood, boobs, and monsters. Mila Jovovich plays the witch queen, Nimue. Nimue, thank you, who is trying to kickstart the fairy folk into reclaiming the earth and taking it away from humanity because humanity has turned this blessed paradise into a garbage heap and our time is done. And that narrative does stem from the Wild Hunt storyline in the Mignola and Duncan Fegredo comics. And it kind of is worked out in Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. But like for my money, this movie's just it's a lot of fun with monsters and blood. And I really like David Harbour's interpretation of the character. I love Ian McShane's Professor Broom. Sasha Lane is really good in the movie as well. Daniel Day Kim as Benjamin Daimo is great. And I can't remember the actor who plays Gurgok the Pigman, but damn Pigman. Give me Pigman. Give me all the Pigman. So like I understand that maybe this was not the movie that people wanted who were in love with the Guillermo del Toro films. There's not that layer of art and artistry and craft to it. It's cheesier, it's trashier, and as such, I had a great time at the movies with this Hellboy. And I did not think that was going to be the case, especially like going into that screening, having seen, the majority of the early reviews come out and say that this is one of the worst films of the year. And I'm sorry, Men in Black International is the worst film of the year. All right. X-Men Dark Phoenix is the worst film of the year. Those are boring, unimaginative, dreck, just paint by numbers garbage. And
uninspiring.
That is not what's happening in Hellboy. If it's not your thing, that's cool.
Yeah.
But it's my thing.
It's somebody's thing.
Exactly.
It's great.
Exactly.
You
Steve,
liked it.
I really enjoyed it. And I thought it was fun. And I found myself laughing. I was invested. I thought it was wonderful. And imaginative.
Yeah. Oh, the Baba Yaga. Good. Performed by the same guy who does Pretzel Jack in the oh God, what's that Shudder TV series, the Sci-Fi Channel horror? Channel Zero.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Have you watched Channel Zero, Brian?
No, not heard of it, but I haven't. Yeah.
You got to watch that Pretzel Jack season. Ooh.
That kiss, if we were doing a good, the bad, and the ugly, that kiss with the Baba Yaga and Hellboy is just the ugliest thing.
It's been a good year for Lupita Nyong'o, and it's been a good year for the Baba Yaga. She's been popping up all over the place.
Yeah, I see.
Stephen Graham is Grugach.
Grugach, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, all right, great pick. I know how much of a Hellboy fan that you are.
But here's the thing, again, if you want the comic books, this is not it. You're going to be disappointed.
Yeah,
you gotta come in for that sorceress vibe.
There you go.
I played Nimue in a community theater production of Camelot.
Very different Nimue.
Yeah, you didn't see my boobs at all, not even once.
I don't think you see Mila Jovovich's boobs.
No, you
either.
don't, but I can imagine them.
Yeah, well, we've seen them in other things.
Even when she's like in pieces? There's no tit piece? I can't remember. I need to rewatch.
I don't remember a tit piece. I feel like my brain would remember a tit piece, Lisa. But, okay.
Nice. So my number 5, it's funny. We just had our review cast earlier this week on Toy Story 4. And you mentioned, Brad, that it would be a good double feature with us.
I did.
And ironically, even though it's right outside my top 5, Toy Story 4 is number 6, but my number 5 is Us.
Yeah.
Good pick.
I really dug Us a lot. Of course, this is the second feature film from Jordan Peele. And again, we talk about what Jordan Peele wanted to do with his career as far as making like these, what he calls social thrillers. And with him dealing with like race relations with Get Out, he's dealing more so with social structure and social class with Us. Hopefully that's not too many spoilers, but when you see the film, if you haven't seen the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's basically about a family that goes on vacation and they get attacked by their doppelgangers.
That's all in the trailer, right? Yeah.
And that's all in the trailer. But the subtext of this film goes a lot deeper. And then also just the story that's told through the character of Lupita Nyong'o And then a lot of the reveals that happened, particularly with her character, I thought were really masterfully done by Jordan Peele. And Jordan Peele, I think, just as a director, is really making a name for himself as one of the premier directors out right now. I mean, just with 2 films. I absolutely love this film. I love the characterization. I love the portrayals by Winston Duke.
He's my fave.
And Lupita Nyong'o. I mean, just being kind of like that dippy dad. And it's just, he does it so well. And I just think it's just so fascinating.
And his doppelganger is really scary.
It's very terrifying, extremely terrifying. And just like with just like with Get Out, I think multiple viewings of this movie, you pick up so much that's underneath the surface that's being told with all of these characters, even with like Elizabeth Moss and some of the stuff with her. It's a fascinating film, and I love that Jordan Peele has been able to make these layered films that allows us to revisit it and dive deeper and have these more complex conversations about social issues that are told within like genre filmmaking. It's just I don't know. I love what he's doing. I love what he's
picking
doing.
up the baton of Rod Serling and doing his own spin on genre storytelling and social storytelling.
Absolutely.
And it's what like we adore at It Mod.
Absolutely.
Keep it coming.
Yeah. So that's my number 5. Lisa, going to your
What about
number,
Darren's number 5?
His number 5 is
Is it Hellboy? I don't think so.
yes.
Oh, it is? Oh, wow.
shocking.
Surprise.
We really we're changing hearts and minds here on this podcast.
Yeah. He
Darren Smith, number
he
5.
did confide in me. He was like, you know what, Brad, it's rubbing off on me. I think I like that Hellboy movie.
Oh, good.
I was like, okay.
Oh, yeah. I see the text he just sent you. Whoa, 5 stars. Oh, you gave it a
Exactly.
star higher than me. Whoa.
Yeah.
There you go. His number 5, Hellboy. Mm-hmm. So, Lisa, what do we have for your number 4?
My number 4 is Us.
Oh, nice.
This is a movie. It's one of those we were talking about Toy Story 4 and how like when you walk away from that movie and you have some kind of feeling about it. And then you start talking about it and you find yourself converting yourself. So I remember like watching Us, and what kind of screening was this?
Oh, we saw it as part of Lost Weekend earlier.
That's
in the year.
right. That's right. So we were surrounded by a bunch of our friends at the Alamo Winchester.
It was a Thursday night. I want to say it was a 10 o'clock showing in the
yeah.
evening.
Yeah.
And there were, I feel like in general, everybody liked it, but everybody had this background, feeling about it.
Let's
Going
not
like,
get up. Get out.
Yeah.
there was like a lot of processing, but I found myself like as discussing the layers and what could this possibly mean? And this idea of the tether, and what could that really mean? And I just found myself getting lost in all of that, just the mental gymnastics that it takes to like really appreciate that film. I love that process. I love clues. I love discussing film. It's just so and all of the things you said.
I think Us is a bigger ask than Get Out is in some ways. You know, the mythology that they are building with the tethered is pretty wild and out there from a genre point of view. And I think that is maybe a little too out there for some types of horror fans.
It's asking a lot of people to really buy into.
I purchased. I bought it.
Oh yeah, me too. Same here.
So I will use this as an opportunity to plug The Twilight Zone on CBS All Access. I found the first season really solid.
Okay. It's done?
It's done.
The first season's done. Okay.
And the last episode was the episode with the IT crowd guy.
Chris O'Dowd.
Ooh, okay.
It's actually not the last episode. The Seth Rogen episode is the last
Oh, I have one more.
Yeah, you have one
I'm
more to
so
watch.
excited for me.
But the Chris O'Dowd episode's great.
Great.
And then the replay episode is the highlight of the whole season. And so if you're at all curious about the Twilight Zone episode, I would say don't start with a Kumail Nanjiani comedian episode. Jump right to replay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I saw because they released that one for free on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I saw the Kumail Nanjiani one, which I really liked.
That one had a lot more of that classic feel. I think that Jordan Peele was just having us kind of wade back into the genre.
Okay.
But I think it's been really exciting the directions that it's gone since.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds exciting. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So, Brad, what do you have at your number 4 spot?
I have a film that I first saw at Sundance, but then I was lucky enough to see it when they brought it to IMAX. And this is a film that, it's kind of like when Dunkirk came out. You're like, oh, you got to see it in IMAX. If you don't see it in IMAX, you'll have not experienced the film. And I agree that the superior version of watching Dunkirk is in IMAX, but I've also watched it at home on my TV, and it's still great.
It's fine.
And I would say that if you missed this film on IMAX, you can still really enjoy it at home. It's the documentary Apollo 11, which is about the Apollo 11 space mission.
Okay.
The director is Todd Douglas Miller, and what he does is he tells the entire story using archival footage, and he restores all of it. But if you are a film fan and you don't even care about space, and you're like, okay, yeah, they went to the moon, they came back, and yay, 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 rah, 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 America.
Yeah.
You need to watch Apollo 11, Brian, because you love editing. You love score.
Yeah.
You love filmmaking. Apollo 11 has the best score of the year and the best editing of the year.
And it's all archival
It's
footage?
all archival footage, and there is some
Diagrams.
diagram
I love
stuff
diagrams.
that they put together. But like when they depict the slingshot, the way it's done with score, it's some of the most thrilling entertainment of the year.
Okay.
Now, I think you do have to get into a headspace of, I'm not going to be watching Talking Heads. This is not that type of documentary. You can't watch it on Netflix with your phone in your hand. You really have to engage with the movie.
Yeah.
You need to shut your lights off. You need to turn the volume way up and go, I want to experience the Apollo 11 mission from the ground, from the mission control, from the cockpit, from the news broadcasts, and from the spectators on the side. Like, it is an amazing story, obviously, but it is a brilliant piece of filmmaking.
Interesting. Okay.
And not enough people are talking about Apollo 11 from a filmmaking standpoint.
Yeah, yeah. That's the first I've heard of it. Because, I mean, you talk about that as far as being a documentary and talking about the score and the editing and it being cinematic and archival footage. That's interesting to see how they would put that together.
And just the idea of taking footage that has been sitting in basements and rotting away and bringing a ton of money and care to that footage and restoring it to pristine quality. It's astonishing to see that stuff on the big screen, right? Like, I need the Blu-ray. You need to see these old clips refurbished and re-energized through modern technology. Peter Jackson recently did it with another documentary.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, on World War One. What is it called? They who did not grow old. Look it up. It's on IMDb.
Yeah.
I saw that also. I really liked it. It's even weirder because the footage is even more removed from the modern day, and they changed hand cranking speeds and all this kind of stuff to like make it more contemporary, and it feels almost too alien for me. And then Eric Nelson did an HBO documentary called
The Cold Blue.
The Cold Blue, which uses archival footage that William Wyler shot in World War II for the Memphis Belle documentary that he made, and then shuffles it all about and re-edits it. And that also looks beautiful. But Apollo 11 is like, wow, chef's kiss.
Nice. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. All right. So going to my number 4. My number 4 is a movie that came out this past February, and we talked about it a little bit. I think we did a review cast on it. It is Happy Death Day to
Yay!
I really dug this movie. Now, going into this film, I had not seen the first film, which came out 2 years ago in 2017. So I went ahead and watched the first film, and then watched this one watched the first film right before this one came out. So going into this movie, I had the context of what the story was about and just following the character of Tree. And I love the genre switching and genre bending in this movie. How we go from like a traditional slasher film, slasher comedy, to something that's a little more science fiction. I love that switch, and I love how it pays homage to a lot of classic movies that deals with time travel, like Back to the Future, where you can hear a lot of musical cues and motifs from that film as well. But the reason why I have it in my top 5 of the year so far is the journey of the character of Tree and the relationship that she is able to have with her mother. It's this whole idea of being able to have another chance with the loved ones that have left us, and that connected with me because I talked about it before on the review cast, just as far as like, me not having my father around because he passed away when I was 6 months old. And just that idea that I was able to connect with that idea of having another moment with the parent that has passed on, that you may not have been able to have those moments before. And those moments in that movie just really resonated with me emotionally, and I thought it was very well done to use the time travel aspect to really tell such a personal story for Tree. I just thought this movie just worked on so many different levels. So yeah, and I got it on Blu-ray. It's a movie that I definitely revisit, and it just stays with me. And I love what this movie has to say about that. And yeah, so that's my number 4. I think it's one of the best of the year.
What a surprise that series has become.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they say it didn't do as well as the first one, and we may not get, because it does have a kind of a funny tag that does open the world up a little bit more, and I would be excited to see where that goes.
Yeah.
We may or may not get. I mean, it's Blumhouse.
They make
their movies on a budget. So I don't know. Like, I've heard that there's been mixed things about this film, but again, like I said, it's just a personal thing for me, just how I connect with the movie.
I'm with you. I
really love this movie,
cool.
man. So yeah, that's my number 4. Darren's number 4. Just to be honest, I'm trying to be funny. I'm trying to pick some bad movies that Darren would think are really. So what came out this year that was terrible?
Well, X-Men Dark Phoenix.
That's his number 4.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's really come around on that movie.
It's like one of those, like, the more you talk about it, the more of the treasure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's Darren's number 4. This bit is not working. But guess what? I'm going to keep going with it.
That's right,
do
because
it.
you know what? Darren would not give up on a bit.
Exactly.
Darren would never bail on a bit.
So Lisa, what do you have at your number 3?
My number 3 was one of my faves from Sundance, and this one has come out. It has come out on Netflix, and it is Paddleton.
Yeah.
The Mark Duplass,
I haven't seen
Alex
that yet.
Lehman film. Oh my God!
I know you guys have raved about it. Yeah,
Brian.
I need to check that out.
So the story is about two buddies, 2 best friends, bosom friends, and one of them gets diagnosed with a terminal disease, and they, as friends, have to deal with it, and that's what the movie is about.
Okay.
But
it's very funny, but it's also very sad.
they're 2 awkward, nerdy dudes who bond over kung fu flicks and reheated pizza, and they're just 2 guys whose relationship is not based on, like, at first, not based on the deeper stuff. It's based on, we have the same interests. We enjoy each other's company. Mm-hmm. They have this game called Paddleton where they go and they take tennis rackets and they hit a ball where it's them against the wall. And it's how these 2 guys kind of feel about society, that they're tossing their personality out there, and society has just been giving it back to them. But I really think it's a beautiful love story between 2 platonic friends, where these 2, like, for better or for worse, they're the love of each other's lives. Not for better or for worse, they complete each other.
Yeah.
They are all that they need, and
That's awesome.
And it's just I don't want to give too much away, but it's a really stunning movie.
It's
awesome.
just be prepared. Bring some tissues.
It's devastating.
Okay. All right. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I know Netflix picked it up, so yeah, I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah. Great performances from Mark Duplass and Ray Romano. Who knew that guy would be one of the great actors of our time?
Anybody who watched Men of a Certain Age, that's who knew.
Yeah.
It's a great
that movie,
show.
That show is great.
Okay. I think I've heard of that, but
Nobody watched it, Brian. It's okay.
Where's
It was on TNT way back when. Right after Everybody Loves Raymond.
Okay, I do
Andre Brower, Dr. Sam Beckett, Scott Bakula.
Yeah, I do remember that show. Yep.
Yeah, but that's another show about platonic love. I think platonic love is something that gets marginalized, and it's so important.
It's very important because we all have it. you know?
Right here in the Dork Cave.
Absolutely.
And it's
So,
important, and it gets us through some tough stuff.
Yep, absolutely. So, Brad,
Yes.
what do we have at number 3 for you?
For number 3, I'm cheating a little bit. The movie's not out yet. It has been purchased. It will be distributed. I don't know if it's going to end up being this year. It premiered originally at South by Southwest. I saw it at the Overlook Film Festival in New Orleans earlier in the month. It is Adam Egypt Mortimer's Daniel Isn't Real. I talked a little bit about it on the podcast a couple weeks ago. The quick summary, what you get from the first 5 minutes of the movie is this young boy who is witnessing his parents' divorce in the middle of an argument, and he walks out of the brownstone in New York where he is. He's, I don't know, I'd say he's like 5, 7 years old, something like that. He's kid age. And he stumbles upon a really graphic crime scene in which a woman has been killed via shotgun. And the movie actually opens with the shotgunning death. And when he sees this corpse, you hear this rip in time, in space, and suddenly there is Daniel next to him, and it's his imaginary friend. And it's about what it means to have an imaginary friend, and is it a beneficial relationship? Is it an imaginary relationship? Or is it an actual physical cosmic relationship? That's all I'm going to say. I spoiled it a little bit deeper in the Week in Dork episode from a few weeks ago. Okay. I'm just going to leave it there. I think this film is very disturbing. It's incredibly engrossing. It's incredibly thrilling. It's not necessarily a horror film. It's not, or at least it's not a scary movie. It has its moments, but it's deeply disturbing. And I think its ending is it delivers on something where you're either going to go with it, sort of like with Us. You know, it's an ask. You're either going to go with it or you're not. It's cheaply being described by lesser critics as a more horrific adult version of Drop Dead Fred, the Phoebe Cates film from the 90s. If you remember that atrocity. I apologize for even making that reference in this episode because it's just does such a disservice to the film. I think Adam Egypt Mortimer is a fascinating filmmaker. It's a beautiful visual experience. There is oh no, shut up, Brad. Don't say anymore. There's stuff going on that you're going to want to put your eyes on.
Did you have an imaginary friend growing up, Brian?
Not really. I had maybe my Kermit the Frog doll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was about it.
Now, what about you, Brad?
I had an imaginary friend, like a friend, you know, like, oh, this is Dave. I can't remember what his name is, but like I had like a kid I would talk to.
Yeah.
I was an only child. I had a lot of imaginary friends, guys.
Yeah.
I had an imaginary teacher named Miss Shelley.
Ah.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
She had green hair. She was like a punk rock teacher.
Oh, nice. Oh. That's cool. And this hasn't been purchased yet?
It's been purchased. I can't remember who has the rights to it, but it will be coming out. I don't think it has a release date yet.
Got you. Okay, cool. All right, so my number 3, which is probably Darren's number 1, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Me and Darren, man, we have talked about this movie ever since it has come out.
You had a great review cast of it.
Man, I'm telling you, well, if you've gone and listened to that review cast, you know how we both feel about this movie. And granted, I'm not even as big as a fan as Darren is, and sometimes it's almost like the whole Mad Max thing. Like I feel like he owns it, so it's like for me to kind of take some of that love just kind of feels wrong.
No, do it. Take that love.
Yeah, but I really dug this movie, man, and I love. I don't even know where to begin. First, I love the score. I think the score is just amazing, and how it harkens back to a lot of the previous Godzilla films. I think a lot of the action that we get in this movie is just phenomenal. I think the look of the film, I mean, it just what we saw from the trailers was phenomenal. When you get the introduction of Rodan and Isla de Mar, that was the name of the city, and how when you see it from the ground level of the people running out, and then when he flies over the city and how it looks like an atomic blast, and the fight that he has with Ghidorah, and just all these different moments with Godzilla. Now, I know a lot of people talk about the human characters, and I kind of went on a little rant, if you listen to my review cast, where I think that just becomes this kind of safe thing for people to kind of complain about. Now, granted, if you have legit issues with the story, that's cool. But when I'm listening to reviews and I'm watching podcasts and everybody is saying the same thing, and to me it just becomes redundant. For me personally, I didn't have a problem with the human characters or the story being told. Maybe it's because I like those characters. I love Kyle Chandler, Vera Farmiga, and Millie Bobby Brown. And I like how their story really kind of shows the motivation and carries the story through for the characters of Godzilla with some of the actions that they make in this movie. But when we get to the third act in Boston and you see Godzilla and fighting Ghidorah, all those different scenes, the stuff with Mothra, I think all that stuff just is so effective. Yes, they're doing a lot of setup for the next film. Like, you know, we get introductions of Skull Island. They drop little nuggets about Skull Island, about Kong. And so it's doing a lot of setup, and there is a lot of expository dialogue. But to me, that never got in the way of the sheer enjoyment that I think this movie really kind of delivers on. It's so funny. Me and Darren talked about it, and I said, it reminds me of King Arthur. Like, for me, King Arthur, like, it's a type of movie, like, I don't see why people are having such a divisive nature about this movie. Like, to me, this movie is great. I mean, I know people have different tastes, and, you know, like Darren would say, your mileage may vary. But for me, man, I just had a riot with this movie. I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. So, I don't know. Rant is over. I just feel like I just have to defend this movie so much.
Yeah. I liked it.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, he told me that shit.
I liked it.
It's good, Brad. It's good.
I agree.
I know. I'm teasing you, but yeah, I love Godzilla, King of the Monsters, man. That's my number 3 of the year so far.
Darren just texted me his number 3.
Oh, okay, you got it.
And Darren says that his number 3 is Glass, and he thinks that it's the best chapter in the whole series.
That's what I was. Okay.
Was that this year?
Yeah, it was January.
It was. It was.
It feels like a long time ago because we've had to separate from it so far emotionally.
Yeah.
But Darren is a real champion for it.
He is. He loves the low budget feel. He loves that the climax takes place in the parking lot.
Yeah.
He told me all about it.
Yeah, he's like, I love the fact that it seemed like the climax would be like this huge scene at a tall building.
Yeah.
But really it was just, you know, like,
He loves parking lot combat.
yeah, he's like, I don't think mental hospitals have nurses anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I really brave stance, Darren.
I know.
Thank you for texting me 6.5 stars.
Ooh,
Wow.
man.
He's broken letterbox.
He's
Yeah.
broken
He
letterbox.
hacked it.
Yeah, there you go. So, Lisa,
Yes.
what do we have at your number 2? Getting close to your favorite.
My number 2 is Avengers Endgame.
Nice.
You can listen to all of the other It Mod episodes to hear about how good all the Marvel franchise is. And it's a little unfair even including it on this list, considering that a part of the emotional satisfaction is all of the previous film scaffolding to make such an epic story as Avengers Endgame. And Yeah, and I can't wait to see what Marvel does next.
What they're doing next is re-releasing Avengers Endgame this weekend.
I know.
With an extended
New
cut.
footage.
Yeah.
Do you know what? My one complaint about it, not long enough.
Yeah. So it's our 10-year anniversary, Lisa. We're hitting the road. We're going on a road trip. We're going to have to swing by a movie theater.
Hell yes.
Why not? Yes, do it. I think I might have to check it out one more time. I've only seen it twice.
Just twice.
That's not enough times.
Not enough.
I know. It's honestly for me, it's hard to see movies more than twice. Not hard like I can't get to the
It's
theater.
not your thing.
Yeah, but like seeing it multiple times, it's just. I mean, once I see it twice, maybe 3 times if I go with someone who hasn't seen it and I want to introduce the film
Or if it's
to
a
them.
Turtles film.
Yeah,
Or Power
yeah.
Rangers movie.
Yeah, if it's great. Yeah, Power Rangers I did see 3 times, but 9 times out of 10, usually twice. I'm good with 2 times.
9 times out of 10, too. That's a lot of numbers.
9
9 times out of 10, 2 times.
2 times. Yeah.
We don't
That-
math here.
Yeah, I don't do math.
Yeah, be
Oh
quiet,
my
Lisa.
goodness! You just texted me again. It's up to 7.5 stars now.
Oh, wow.
Uh-oh, he's starting
It's
a new
a
site.
grower, not a shower. That's what they said about glass.
Oh man, anything else you wanted to say about Endgame before we move along to
It's
Brad?
great. I mean, what else? What hasn't been said about Endgame?
True, you're very true, very true. So, Brad, what do you have at your number 2 spots?
My number 2 is a film that appeared on both of your lists already, Jordan Peele's Us.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, 2. Nice.
Yeah, I just rewatched. I did a double feature of Get Out and Us, and while they're both very much in that social thriller vein, they are also very different movies. And Us is a much scarier film, and I find its revelation at the end to be so flippin' brilliant. And if I know Lupita Nyong'o is not going to get an Academy Award for this performance because the world is not fair.
Yeah.
But damn it, she is amazing in this movie. And that's the only thing I need to add to what you guys have already said. It's just she is crazy good in Us.
Yeah, it takes me back to Toni Collette in Hereditary last year, how she was getting snubbed throughout the year. I feel like Lupita is going to be in that same boat this year.
Yeah, and I think Us has the disadvantage of being the follow-up to Get Out, which was just this major cultural impact, and I just don't think Us was ever going to have that. But I do think it is a movie that really does grow on repeat watches, like you were saying, and there are just shots in that film that are mind-blowing, and the score, Michael Abels, what he has done in Us. And not to humble brag, but head on over to Film School Rejects. I did speak to him for 10 short minutes, 10 cruel short minutes to talk to Michael Abels about his work on Us. It's stunning. He's now done 3 movies. He did Get Out and Us and See You Yesterday. It's on Netflix. I think that's the title.
Okay.
It's like a YA kids science fiction film.
Oh, I think I did hear about that because I know Get Out was his first.
First film.
Yeah,
Film score.
first one,
Because Jordan Peele, he wants to make sure that all the top line positions in his films are filled by African Americans. And when he went to fill the composer role, guess what? Hollywood, you suck. There really aren't any in Hollywood right now. And he was doing deep research, and he found Abels's work that he was doing with these string orchestrations around the concept of urban legend. He watched these YouTube videos. He called this guy up. He said, "You want to go get a coffee?" And by the end of that coffee, he had a job scoring Get Out. And his life was radically altered.
Awesome. That's awesome.
It's a great story, but also indicative of this what we need to do in this country and in this industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, Us. Great movie.
Nice. Great. So my number 2 is Avengers Endgame. I mean, what is there to say about this film that hasn't already been said? I absolutely love this movie. I love how I do want to get into this a little bit, man. The way they were able to take 22 films and we talk about how one movie, just the course of one film and how a movie can fall apart in the third act and they can't stick the landing. You take a 22 film arc, a universe, and the way that they were able to stick the landing in this is just absolutely just amazing to me that they were actually able to do that. This could have fell apart in so many different ways. And I think knowing that it was in the hands of Kevin Feige that it wouldn't, but you just never know. And to see how they wrap up all these characters, and it gives you that emotional satisfaction, just not in the resolution, but in the climax. Captain America, that moment at the end gets me every single time. It tears me up. It gives me goosebumps. When I hear "On Your Left," when you see spoiler alert, I'm sorry, guys.
Everybody's seen it,
Everybody's
Brian.
seen this movie. But when you see all the characters come back, when you see him pick up Mjolnir, it is just phenomenal. I mean, that is just phenomenal filmmaking to be able to build up to these just grandiose moments. It's just amazing to me. And I just absolutely love what the MCU has done. Absolutely love it. This movie is just so layered and gives gives a resolution to all these different characters. Thor, we talked about Thor. We talked about Tony Stark. I love it. I just absolutely love it, and I'll be talking about it 6 months from now.
Interesting picks, guys. Those are interesting picks.
I wonder what your number one is.
I don't know.
But what's Darren's number 2, Brian?
Number 2 for Darren is, no surprise, Men in Black International.
Talk about using the scaffolding of the previous films to elevate each following chapter. That was what Darren wrote specifically. He actually put it in an envelope and put a stamp on it.
He put a stamp on it.
He
nailed it.
Wow.
He
He
nailed
gave
it.
it the seal of approval.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He also used. He also got a seal from the zoo. So that's two seals. Seal on the envelope.
That's a terrible joke.
Seal from the zoo. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not my. It's how formal Darren is.
Okay.
Oh man. Yeah, he's gonna kill me. Anyway, I'll handle that later. But Lisa,
Yes.
we are at our number 1. This is your favorite film of 2019.
Thus far, my favorite film of 2019. Who says it that way? I guess everybody. That is the number. Rocket Man.
Okay.
I saw your letterbox score. I didn't
Yeah.
take it personally.
No, I know.
Brian.
I know.
No, I thought we were musical buds forever.
You know what? I will go back and rewatch it. I don't think I was in the right headspace.
It's definitely a you problem because this film is great.
It probably is.
To me, I think the way that they were able to translate Elton John and Bertie Taupin's body of work to tell the story, not just mostly of Elton John, but also all the people around him. I just think it's just so well done.
Okay.
And we've seen other jukebox musicals. They're hard. But I think the fact that Elton John's music and Bernie Taupin's, obviously, it's a partnership, speaks in generalities, but in a way that is so poetic. The fact, and we do this with pop music all of the time. We hear the pop music around us and we apply it to our lives and we give it meaning. And the way that they use these songs to give meaning to these chapters in Elton John's life, I think is really well done. Yeah. I think in terms of theatrical, musical, they nailed it. The use of cinematography, choreography, vocals, with everybody doing their own vocals.
Yeah.
It's just Taron Egerton. Can that guy get any more talented?
Yeah.
Soup's handsome.
Yeah.
Dancer, singer, actor, action star, guy with an accent. He's 10 out of 10, that guy.
Okay.
Could you have seen, because I think this was the film that Tom Hardy was originally going to play Elton John. Could you
That's
see
weird.
Tom Hardy?
I've literally only heard Tom Hardy sing like 3 or 4 words in that London Calling.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he can really, can he really sing? I have no idea.
I can't see him in it only because Taron Egerton, doesn't necessarily look like Elton John, but he becomes Elton John in that movie.
Yeah.
Well, one of the pieces of advice that Elton John gave him as a singer was, don't do an imitation of my singing voice. You sing you, and do a true performance, and that will be and I think that applies to his entire performance. He really put himself in the place of Elton John, the character, and I think he gave something that was truly earnest. And I think the fact that it was done as a musical really tied together those more theatrical elements so that you can have this structure of the AA meeting kind of straddling the entire film. We have meetings between like the child Elton John and the adult Elton John. We have these magical musical moments personified by floating people and you know, singing underwater. Like, what musicals do is it orchestrates every emotion. Like, you express the unexpressible, you hear the layers of drama through the instrumentation and orchestration. We see things expressed not just through text, but through choreography. I just think that musicals as a genre can be so much more.
Okay.
And I think that sometimes movies get scared of being too unbelievable or too weird or too old-fashioned.
But it seems like it's starting to break out of that, though.
I hope so. I hope so. And this is the, like, you know, I can be a little bit of a stick-in-the-mud stickler for what a musical should be.
Yeah.
But this exceeds my expectations.
Okay.
Aladdin also exceeded my expectations. Yeah. I thought that was a fabulous musical.
Yeah. You know, Rocket Man and Aladdin might be the two biggest surprises of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe how much I like those two movies.
I dreaded Rocket Man. That trailer.
I remember.
I would just shake my head. And I do think that it's a poorly made trailer because it gave you, like, you could see the scene from The Troubadour where the people are floating. Mm-hmm. It it showed, you know, the
it had a
Elton John under the water and things like that. I feel like it tipped its fantastical hand.
Yeah.
I feel like if it sold itself a little bit more as more typical biopic, and then revealed the magic later, the film might have done a little bit better. Okay. Because I think that kind of thing takes a certain amount of buying in.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. All right. That's cool. You're number one. Nice.
My number one. I love that movie. I can't wait to see it again.
Nice. Great. So, Brad, I think we might know. I think if I took a wild guess, but I'll let you go ahead. What's your number one? I think we kind of...
It's Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
You know, what more is there to say, as you guys were already saying? The whole world has seen this film. Lots and lots of people liked it. We loved it. We spoke about it for 2 hours on our review cast. Go back, listen to that episode. Mm-hmm. The longer I have lived with the movie, I've seen it 5 times now. I'm excited to watch the 6th, even longer cut of the film. It sticks the landing, Brian. I agree. It elevates previous movies within the continuity.
The
Dark World, but Age of Ultron, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yep. It does a lot for its previous films, which is impressive. And like a lot of my favorite movies, it was a movie that I really didn't come to fully appreciate until those repeat watchings. There's so much anticipation built up around a film like this. The first time you watch it, you can barely make heads or tails of how you are feeling about these events. Having now watched Infinity War and Endgame back to back, at home, I watched Infinity War and then I sped to the Alamo and watched Endgame. That is an incredible experience, and I would love to watch them both theatrically. That's the re-release I'd like to see.
Yes.
Give me the 6 hours
I know.
Of that experience. Yes. I can do it, no problem.
Yep.
But yeah, I think, it does, it shows you why you love these characters in showing their ends. superhero cinema should all be like this. You know, comic book cinema should be like this.
Yeah.
And why others can't get it, it's because they don't have the talent that the MCU has behind the camera, in front of the camera.
Yeah, I mean, it sets the gold standard for how you do a universe and how you create characters and how you build characters through the course of multiple films.
Yeah, and it's not about adapting narratives.
Yeah.
It's not about like, this is the comic book version of Civil War. This is the comic book version of Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
It's about adapting the spirit of the characters and the plots that they navigate.
Absolutely. It's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So my number one, I kind of tipped my hand maybe off air to you guys, so you probably already know. And I'm kind of, I guess you could say maybe cheating a little bit, kind of massaging the rules. But to me, this is a cinematic experience, and it's the best piece of filmmaking that I've seen this year. It's Netflix's When They See Us. It's a miniseries. It's a 4-parter. It's 5 hours. To me, I just think that this is the best thing that I've seen this year. If anybody who doesn't know, this is the story of the Central Park Five. 5 kids, 4 young black teenagers and 1 Hispanic, who were interrogated for many hours without sleep, without food, without parental supervision, or with a lawyer in the room, where they were coerced into giving false confessions. And when you see the way Ava DuVernay portrays this in episode 1, it's extremely heartbreaking to see how the police manipulated the situation and took advantage of these 14-year-old boys by using these fear tactics to get a confession out of them, and using the fact that they wanted to just go home, and telling them that, look, just admit to this and you'll go home, knowing full well that that was never going to happen for these kids. And then when you see the story of Antron McCray and his father, played brilliantly by Michael K. Williams, and how that relationship transpires because of the choices that he makes to tell his son. And it's extremely heartbreaking. Then with episode 2, we get into the trial, and just how that all transpires, and we get into the political aspects of this case and what it means, and people doing political jockeying to get certain type of to move forwards in their careers and stuff like that at the expense of these boys. And then episode 3 just kind of fast forwards a little bit, and then you kind of deal more with the aftermath and then readjusting to life outside of prison. And I would say that is probably the only episode that gives you a little bit of levity.
Yeah.
And probably the weakest of the 4 episodes. But I still enjoyed it because I did like to see them as grown men and how they are readjusting to life, and also just the idea of them being convicts, with them trying to get a job, and how they can't relate to converse with other convicts, and how that, it just goes into that whole idea about trying to reacclimate in the world.
And there's no release.
There is
right?
no release
Yeah.
at all. I mean, you're not physically behind bars, but you're still behind bars, even when you're walking free in this world. And then we get to episode 4, which is an episode that deals specifically with one character, Corey Wise, who was just there to support his friend who was being interrogated. And for him to get pulled in and for him to suffer the worst of any of these kids who spent the most time in jail.
Because of his age.
Because of his age. He was 16, still a minor, but was convicted as an adult, was sent to Rikers Island, and then got transferred to a lot of different prisons. And I haven't seen the documentary that Ava DuVernay did, The 13th, but I know
man.
it's one that speaks on the prison system. And with this episode 4, she's diving deep into the prison system with this particular episode, and what she explores and how she portrays this is just amazing. I mean, the movie feels like a stream of conscious. It feels almost like this beautiful nightmare is the way I would describe it. And to see how Corey Wise comes out of this and how it changes him, his relationship with his family, it's heartbreaking. Jarrell Jerome, who we saw in Moonlight, this is a star-making performance for him. There's nothing bad I could say about this. This is
Bradford Young cinematography.
Bradford Young cinematography is absolutely amazing. I talk a little bit about this with Bradford Young and with Ava DuVernay. You look at the projects that they did coming off of this, A Wrinkle in Time and Solo, A Star Wars Story. It seems like they kind of went through that Hollywood system and they didn't have the best experience. So for them to come to a project like this, you could see the passion going into this. Bradford Young's cinematography is just phenomenal. Ava DuVernay's direction, her visual direction in this, stunning. I mean, you could see that they are putting their all into this project and wanting to do service to these boys, and also trying to tell a cautionary tale about what is happening in our justice system and what is happening to young African American and Hispanic kids to this day. People are being falsely accused of stuff and being thrown into prisons. And what she's saying about our current political climate and the guy that's sitting in the highest office right there on Pennsylvania Avenue and the things that he said about these kids. It's despicable.
And continues to say about these kids.
And continues to say. Linda Fairstein, who became this big-time crime novelist, and the things that is being happened to her now, which is deservedly so. She don't deserve to have a book deal. She don't deserve to have
accountability.
Half the stuff that she has. So karma comes back around, and it came back around strong, and I don't feel sorry for any of them. But definitely something to check out.
I think it's one of those things where, and we talked about it off air, and I know you talked about it on your review cast, Weekend Dork episode. But it's one of those stories where it's easy to go like, okay, you got to get prepared for it. It's emotionally devastating and blah 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 blah. Yeah. But also ignore that, like. You're never going to be prepared for a story like this, right?
You're not.
But also prepare yourself for an amazing bit of craftsmanship, as Brian's talking about here.
Yes.
It's a stunning cinematic work.
It is.
And you like movies, go watch this thing.
Yes, this is a 5-hour movie, and it's right, and you can watch it right on Netflix. I know some people have issues with Netflix, but you know, I like how they're giving certain voices to people to be able to tell these types of stories. So that is my number one, I guess, quote unquote, film of the year. So definitely look out for our top 10 movies at the end of this year to see if any of these lists will kind of shift and change.
Yeah, it's always fascinating to see how that ends up.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're halfway through the year already.
I know. I mean, you guys expecting anything on the second half of the year?
I mean, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
That's the movie I'm anticipating the most right now.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen Dead Don't Die. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
I really like The Dead Don't Die. I liked it a lot. I'm curious to see what you think. I'm curious. Darren just saw it, and it was not what he was expecting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm always excited to see what our lists are, and then how they're going to change by the end of the year, and see where everything actually falls.
So what was Darren's number one?
His number one was Godzilla, but I did get a text. I think it ended up being Pikachu.
Oh, Detective Pikachu.
The sleeper hit.
The sleeper hit of the year. He really dug that film.
You know, we're going to have to give Darren some time on the next episode to give his reasonings behind all of this.
Yeah, definitely going to have to give him time. So
I do like that part where the one of the Pokemons is doing mime.
That was actually.
I laughed every single time that was in the trailer.
Sorry, guys. No, that was also still trash.
So that is our top 5. That is our Fistful for this week. And the aforementioned guy that we mentioned, that is the Disco Dork. Follow him at the Disco Dork on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you follow Lisa at Sidewalk Siren and at Big Dork on Twitter and Instagram. Brad Gullickson at Mouth Dork on Letterboxd, Twitter, Instagram, Untapped. I am the Turtle Dork. You can follow me at Twitter at the Turtle Dork. Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and Brian William Young on Facebook. That will do it for us this week. It's been fun hosting, and I will have to give the reins back over to Disco Dork next week.
Well, the next week in Dork, I think, will be a D&B show, right?
That's right. Yeah, because you guys will be
anniversary.
Smooching it up in Bangor.
Ooh,
Bangor.
And by smooching it up, I mean we're going to be smooching on Stephen King.
Oh,
Stephen
yeah.
King,
We should
yeah.
kick down his door.
Yeah.
This is just an excuse to listen to a bunch of creepy audiobooks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
While we drive.
There you go. There you go. So you guys enjoy, and me and Darren will be holding it down next week.
And then we're going to be in July, and that's Comic-Con month, baby.
Man, so yeah, check out for a lot of content throughout all the different ItMod feeds and different shows that we have, because we're going to be covering a lot leading up to, and this is the 50th
50th Comic-Con,
Comic-Con.
And
So this is the big one.
significant 9th year for the ItMod team.
Yes, we have almost done a decade. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
But why? Do you remember why the 9th year is significant for me?
Because I know for you is that kid
That
that you
kid
talk
on the
to.
plane.
Yeah, the kid on the
Yeah.
plane. He's like, I was like, how many times have you gone to Comic-Con, kid? He's like, this is my 9th year. What, you selfish jerk? I've never gone once, and you've been to Comic-Con 9 years, you child. And now I'm that selfish jerk.
You're that guy. So now the person you talk to on the plane will be looking at you that way.
Yep.
And you're going to relish in it.
Oh, I've been playing that role already all year long.
It's
And
going to be
my
great.
whole life. I'm a selfish jerk.
It's going to be great. So stay tuned for all that great content. And until our next Weekend Dork, we will catch you on the next one. So we will see you later.
Bye.